Is the Grille 15 really the German precision rifle it was meant to be? Watch us test its accuracy and find out if it can live up to its infamous reputation as the least accurate, most accurate tank in World of Tanks. Of course, today's video is looking at the troll that is the Grille 15 on Airfield. We have two replays. We're going to kind of cut them into segments where we showcase what the Grille is all about, how you can utilize it, how you can come up against it, and hopefully it'll be an interesting one for you to see how this thing performs at the utmost ability, and why this thing is just an absolute troll, and why accuracy isn't always what it seems to be, considering that this Grille 15, with all of the perks, all of the bonuses you can possibly put on the Grille, has 0.22 accuracy, so very, very, very good, and makes it one of the most accurate tanks. If we were to take away the STRV line, the Swedish TDs, etc., then yes, this is unbelievably good in terms of its accuracy. But as everyone knows, the Grille 15 has horrible dispersion when moving, which means that although it has this insane accuracy when stopped and fully aimed, and when it has not got to move its reticle such that, you know, you're having to kind of move the hull of the tank because of the fact that the gun arc on this tank is not particularly too good. You've got a 50 degree either side, so you've got 100 degrees from the front, so it's not the worst in the game, but it certainly does feel a little bit lackluster. And when you combine that with the fact that it feels like the gun depression, although being 7 degrees, can really annoy you in terms of getting consistent damage, because what happens is you're having to constantly move, you're having to constantly change direction, and although you can sit here and you can farm up tier 10 heavies like the Object 279E when you get the shot, when it comes to carrying, the Grille probably isn't the tank that you'd expect to come away with the highest level of carry within the game. But the whole point of today's video is to showcase the whole tank, how it actually plays in game, whether you should even get the tank, and yeah, hopefully you guys do enjoy. And of course, if you are enjoying the content on the channel that we've been producing, it does take a long time to make, and we've been focusing on daily uploads, so hopefully you guys do enjoy. And if you do, then make sure that you have a look at some of the other content, and if you enjoy that, please do subscribe or like the video, because it massively helps me out, and it's free, you don't have to do anything, so it really does help me out. Thank you for those of you that already have. But back to the Grille 15, let's jump ahead a second to a bit more action that you can kind of see how this thing really does perform. So we didn't have to jump ahead too far, because the E4 decides he's going to come out in front of the Grille. And the good thing about the accuracy of this vehicle is that you can really pinpoint the areas in which you want to hit a tank. Like, obviously makes sense, since you're more accurate, you're less likely to miss where you're going to be aiming at. But the point is that when you're in a tank like this, you can go for those tracking shots that a lot of the tanks in the game would find annoying, especially at these sort of ranges. You know, you're not too far away, but you are a decent distance, to the point where, you know, the 0.22 dispersion compared to maybe 0.3 of a medium tank or something in that regard, yeah, you can certainly hit a hell of a lot more shells, but of course when fully aimed. So you're seeing in this game that the majority of the enemy team are kind of sat in the typical positions. You've got a decent proportion sat on the heavy tank line, where you're seeing this Object 279E, who hasn't learnt from his mistake earlier, but does actually get away with it this time. But also you've got this VZ and the line in the centre of the map, and you've also got a decent amount of people in the southern side of the map who are going around the kind of watery area, or the sea area, or the coast, I guess. But the good thing about having a decent lineup is that you're not kind of over pushed, and the Grille really does not do well when it is over pushed in the game, because suddenly your kind of armor or lack of armor really does get punished super hard. And with people knowing that the Grille has no armor, and HE rounds being in the game, even tanks like the maybe tanks with HESH rounds really love this vehicle, and you'll find yourself coming up against the old FV4005 and being really badly punished. So either way, the good thing about the Grille is the accuracy. The bad thing about the Grille is also the accuracy when moving. So that's why the title of the video is the least accurate, most accurate tank in the game. So you guys get the feel for where we're going with this video. But I wanted to showcase not just the accuracy of the tank, but also the concealment, because you've seen within these couple of clips that we showcased, nearly all of the time you're getting spotted without even firing, and that's because the camo of the vehicle is not particularly the best in the game. You might think that following on from things like the Borsig, from following on from other vehicles in the tech tree line, that you would have very good camo, but unfortunately that's just not the case. I guess it's because of the high profile nature of the Grille, not literally the high profile nature, but just because it is tall. And I know you guys probably got what I meant, but the whole point is that it kind of sucks in terms of being able to remain undetected whilst also being able to kind of stay in one place to fully aim and therefore make use of the accuracy. So it's one of those where it kind of just trolls you, and yeah, it's super annoying to play. And I highly kind of get the idea that a lot of people would rather play some of the other tier 10 tank destroyers, things that, you know, you can be more aggressive and you don't lose all of the armor that the Grille does for pretty much no real gain, because the accuracy isn't actually that much better for the most part when you take into account, you know, you're not always sat still in the game, and yeah, the inflexibility that the Grille carries. Now luckily in this game you've been seeing some easy shells into the back of vehicles, a lot of the enemy team just kind of pulling out into the open, and that's really where the Grille can just decimate the opponent. So I'm not saying that the Grille will never have a good game, but you can certainly have yourself in situations where if you were in a different vehicle you could have quite easily picked up a lot more damage. Now you're seeing there, once again, getting spotted, literally not even firing. So as soon as you fire in this tank, it makes it even worse, because obviously you're going to get spotted 9 times out of 10 for the most part. So yeah, once again, not particularly the easiest tank to remain hidden. And I guess if you were after some of the more kind of stealthy missions in the game, then maybe this tank just is not the way to go, kind of contrary to what you might think about this tank. So one good thing about the Grille is that it is fairly fast, and by fairly fast I mean it can go 64 kilometers an hour roughly when you're using some of the boosts, and of course if you really wanted to turbocharge it you could go even faster, but I don't know that it would be that beneficial to do that, and really you probably wouldn't want to either way, because you need the extra bonuses, things that can just reduce the dispersion. You want to be increasing the damage per minute, because although it is a tier 10 tank destroyer, it doesn't have the highest damage per minute that you'd expect from a vehicle like this. You're looking about 3,200 if you're using the gun rammer, if you're using some of the other bonuses, maybe the fact that you can't even use ventilation with this vehicle since it's an open top tank, it makes it even more annoying to play. So I think you're getting my drift in terms of how well this thing performs, and of course there is no way in hell that we would ever be able to call the Grille 15 overpowered because of those reasons and the inflexibility. A lot of the time in World of Tanks, the more overpowered tanks in the game are usually ones that have mobility, a little bit of armor, or at least troll armor that means that people can't just auto aim you, and they have a brilliant gun. Now the Grille has probably 2 of those things to a degree, like we've talked about, in terms of the mobility and the actual the gun that this thing has. But in this game you're seeing here 1,200 hit points on the friendly team. There are 3 vehicles against 4 vehicles on the enemy team. Unfortunately the enemy team are well up on hit points. They are up by 2,500, and that's where the Grille really has to remain hidden, and you've got to play it even more passively considering he's on, what, below 100 hit points at this point in the game. Now, this is where the accuracy really does come into play, and when you're able to pinpoint accurately pick off vehicles at like 200, 300, 400 meters range with the same accuracy that a medium or a heavy tank would have at like, what, 200 meters minimum, maybe, or maximum, and maybe even 150 meters. So that's really where this vehicle comes in nicely, and you can easily go over ridge lines to be able to actually hit people, you know, if they're poking up behind something, or if you're trying to snipe that cupola from a distance. It is possible with this, but you definitely wouldn't want to be relying on it, since you know, there is still RNG in the game, and if you've seen recent videos by Epsilon and Skill about the accuracy in the game, then yeah, maybe the reticle of the Grille would be absolutely minuscule with the mod that you can put, which shows the true accuracy of vehicles. I mean, that'd be something interesting to put on a video at some point, so maybe we'll work our way to getting that at some point. So in a game like this, and you're thinking about trying to win the game, obviously everyone wants to win in World of Tanks, no one wants to actually just throw away the win, or maybe you do if you go for marks of excellence, but you're seeing here, up against the M53-55, and luckily the Object 263 on the enemy team is actually AFK, so I'm not going to bore you by watching him hit him multiple times and come away with the extra damage. So I'll skip ahead and we'll go see the final result in terms of damage, and we'll reach over into the next replay. And there you go, the final hit in the game, of course on the side of the 263, who was AFK, picking up 10,704 damage and 964 assistance. A brilliant round on airfield, and one of the best ones I've seen in a little while. So jumping straight into the second replay, we have the T100 LT being snapshotted by the Grille, which is definitely not something that usually happens, and if he hadn't been in the gun arc, it would have pretty much guaranteed not to have hit, but luckily he was within the 100 degrees gun arc and he comes away with a nice result there, starting off the game as he means to go on. And this replay is unbelievable. We'll be showcasing the final results at the end of the game, so if you're interested in seeing how much XP and how much silver they made, then I'll drop that in at the end when we make our finalizing summary of the Grille 15. So the key thing that we have in this replay is once again showcasing a little bit more on Muravanka, probably one of the maps that is kind of more focused around having a Grille. This map is a very good one, and you're able to pick apart opponents quite easily on this map. And with the alpha damage that the Grille has, the 750, that I don't think we've mentioned so far, it does have 750, as I'm sure you guys know when you've been smacked by one of these things in the game already, and that allows you to really come away with some insane amounts of damage in a game really quite easily if you can set your tank up in the right way and you find yourself in the right sort of position. But the key thing is that we have the Grille on the Muravanka map, and it's sat in the right place in the bushes, and this is a really good position when you're playing in the Grille at the beginning of the game because you can pick out early damage. You can see straight away here 2,100 damage done in a pretty easy fashion, and I guess the 3 marks on the barrel of the Grille 15 here really do showcase that, you know, the player knows what they're doing, or at least you would think so, having got 3 marks. But I know that that's not always the case in World of Tanks, but yeah, at least on this one we are going to see the living up to the expectation of a 3 marked Grille 15. So having put one into the side of the enemy Grille, you'd be hoping that now you can start removing the rest of the hit points of him, because remember, when you don't have that many hit points yourself, the ideal opportunity is to get rid of some of these tanks. Now, a tank like the FV215B183 or the FV4005 are not vehicles you want to be getting hit by, because you will be back in the garage faster than you can say, oh crap, I've shit my pants. So either way, it's really nice to see already, once again, 3,500 damage. So when you're in this sort of matchup and you have the accuracy that this does when you're trailing against opponents, it's really nice to be able to consistently hit them with the accuracy, and that's what the Grille offers, as I'm sure you're well aware at this point, having seen multiple shots throughout all of the games, and some of the reticle sizes, bearing in mind this is without the mod that shows you the true size of the reticle, it is minuscule, and that's really where you can make the difference when you set yourself up in the right position. If you're in a bush, if you're utilising the somewhat camo of the vehicle, as we've already talked about not being the best, but at the end of the day, you are still a TD, you can still make use of all of the camouflage bonuses you get by pulling back behind the bushes and being in an area where maybe you could spot using the 440 meters of view range. Maybe you'd want to be setting up this tank with advanced optics potentially to boost that view range. I don't know, obviously it depends on your playstyle. You can go for the pure damage per minute build where you're going with advanced loader, you're going with some of the boost to the speed as well as improved aiming that you could potentially put on this if you want to make it like a proper sniper. It's not probably necessary 100% of the time, but if you are going to boost up any of the stats, then maybe that would be one you'd want to look at. Now, unfortunately, right here he does get actually spotted. Could have pulled back behind the bush, but remember with the Grille's dispersion when moving, when you do try and pull back behind a bush, given the fact that, you know, opponents tend to typically move during the period of time that they're spotted, you can end up actually missing a lot of shells. So sometimes it is better to fire even if you are aiming 100% at someone and you do get spotted as a result. But remember, if you do get spotted and there's tanks like the FE215B183 on the enemy team, you definitely don't want to get spotted in front of them because they will remove you very, very quickly and in a hurry. So really good game so far, picking up both damage and assistance and coming away with a fantastic result. Now then, with a nice shell potentially hitting the Super Conqueror. Looked like it went a little bit high, but I guess we'll have to wait till the end of the game to find out if that really did hit, or at least maybe we'll see in a second if the Conqueror gets spotted again. But now it's time to make his way into the magical forest, because at this point you're probably thinking, I don't want to get spotted by any of these FE215Bs or the Super Conqueror or the FE4005, because they will literally spam their way through all of that minuscule amount of armor that you get with the Grille, and it's not going to end up very well. So really nice relocation. You can do that with the Grille, like we said, with the mobility, and it's really important that you do so within your games, because if you don't, you're going to find yourself high and dry a lot more often than when you're moving about and actually utilizing that speed that you do get with this tank. But straight away you're seeing some nice little pinpoint accuracy when you are stopped and fully aimed and you have your arc set up in a way that you can see multiple opponents. When you are set up and stationary, then you can swap between the opponents quite nicely. But remember, when you do not actually fully aim, or if you are having to move, it's not going to be very good. But either way, he picks off the Leopard 1 on the enemy team for the final amount of damage that was left on him, and picks up just over 8.5, well, nearly 9,000 combined damage within this replay so far. But it will continue as we move through this. It's not going to end there, and with a FE4005 out in the open, really nice show into him. Takes out one of the RNG aspects that the enemy team could potentially launch into him, and yeah, really nice to see. But the FE215B183 that we've been trying to call an FE4005 also gets shut down in quick succession. We've been trying to condense these videos down into smaller chunks so they're hopefully a bit more manageable for you guys to watch. I don't want you sitting there for 30 minutes if I'm just waffling through gameplay, but hopefully they're a bit more condensed in these last couple of uploads, and we'll be trying to do that. Let me know what you think. But either way, once again, hitting the STRV, you don't always have to fully aim in the Grille. As much as I want to say you do, sometimes you don't, because of that fantastic aiming speed, and also the actual aiming circle size is really good as well. But he hits the Super Conqueror, he's going to take a hit in return. The Super Conqueror could potentially swap to HE using intuition maybe, and people do this when in the game if playing up against the Grille, but it's not going to last because the Super Conqueror is out of the game and he is back in the garage. And a fantastic result, 10,366 damage shown with 1,643 assistance. But did he actually manage to hit the Super Conqueror, because he was on less than full health when he was respotted? I guess we'll have to see in a second. So Hannes did manage to actually come away with 11,184. He did manage to hit the Super Conqueror blind in that shot and managed to deal 2,400 hit points worth of damage, taking him out from full health. So it was nice to see, and of course coming top, no surprise there, with 5 hero medals, 1,382 base experience, and a brilliant game showcasing both the good, the bad and the ugly about the Grille. And of course, once again reiterating that this is genuinely the least accurate, most accurate tank in the game, and hopefully you guys did enjoy the final replay, of course being on airfield, and picking up Quite a decent result as well. Mastery badge, 1376 base experience as well for 10,704 damage and 4 kills. Hopefully that showcased everything you need to know about the Grille, and if you want to join me back on the next video, then there should be some on screen. Otherwise, wait for the next upload tomorrow, and I'll see you there. Goodbye. Thank you.